Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Planes, Trains, and Comic Books channel. My name is Matt, and today we're going to review Project Superpowers Fractured States #1. But before we get into that, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing, subscribing, commenting, it really helps me out and lets me know what you guys want to see more of. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. All right, we got the cover here for Project Superpowers Fractured States #1. It is a Dynamite comic, and it is written by Ron Marz, Andy Lanning. The art is by Emilio Utera, and the colorist is Arthur Hesley. And as you can see, we get a little catch-up page here. This series is actually a continuation of a past series that was just called Project Superpowers. And just a heads up, I haven't read any of that, so I'm going into this fresh with no prior knowledge, as if I picked it up from the comic book shelf as a new reader. And this is just saying that there was a great conflict in the 20th century that gave rise to the superpowers, but now in the 21st century, the nation is fractured into warring regions, and the American dream has become a nightmare. So we start off on the first page in the near future. There's two people talking and fighting, and we see one of them has a uniform that's stars and stripes that's being ripped up and bloodied. We see that this character named the Flag is fighting a shadowy figure on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and the Flag is losing. As the bad guy kind of steps over him for his final blow, he does something to the Flag, and a burst of energy and electricity forms around Flag, and the Flag wakes up somewhere in a room, no clothes, his hair's all grown out, and he doesn't know who he is or where he is. As he opens the door to this room, it fills with water because the facility was flooded, but he's able to break open an air vent, and he ends up in what looks like an abandoned, dilapidated theme park. And as he's looking for clothes and food, suddenly a giant crocodile monster bursts out of the water and tries to attack him. And right when that happens, all of a sudden the crocodile gets shot with a bunch of bullets, and we see three people approach who have skulls and crossbones on their chest. And the Flag seems to recognize that symbol and says the name Bob. So it turns out he thinks the person with the symbol is this guy named the Black Terror, who he knew from before he was transported here. But we find out that this is actually the year 2052, and this group of people with this symbol on their chest is actually an organization called the Black Terror, and they are fighting fascism throughout the United States. Most of America is divided and torn apart. Climate change has caused a bunch of disasters, plagues, and environmental changes that has basically made the ground go bad in America and probably the world. But through that, I guess fascism has taken over politically. We also see that elites and rich people are living in these houses like the Jetsons way up in the sky. And as they're explaining this to the Flag, all of a sudden some helicopters come out of nowhere and start shooting their hovercraft. And these weird zombie-like soldiers drop out of the helicopters and begin to try to fight them one-on-one. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't want to spoil anything else. So that comic was actually requested by a viewer, so I figured I'd check it out. I was a little hesitant because I'd never read the prior series, so I would be going into this cold. It turns out that didn't really matter. This kind of sets you up with a new storyline, and you are introduced to the characters that you need to know enough so you understand what's going on in the story. I thought the plot in this story was a little thin. It starts off strong with that fight between the Flag and that shadowy figure, but once Flag is transported to the year 2052, I don't know, I just felt like that whole crocodile scene took up too many pages, and we didn't really get anything past that too much. We got the setup of what's going on in America in the year 2052. We got that there's a splinter group named the Black Terror and that there's weird zombie soldiers. I figure as the reader, we're just supposed to kind of relate to the main character and want to keep reading to figure out what's going on. Personally, I'd like to see a little bit more than that to like continue reading a series. The writer, Ron Marz, is kind of a classic writer. He did the Green Lantern series in the 90s. That's pretty much what I know him from. I know he wrote Silver Surfer with Ron Lim, but I haven't read much of his recent stuff. But I thought the writing could have been a little bit stronger in the story and the plot. The art I thought was just okay. I actually really liked the beginning fight scene. The way that they introduced the Flag fighting with his uniform being torn and being on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I thought that was fun and cool. But for the rest of the comic, nothing really stood out too much. So overall, I thought this was, like a basic average comic. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. I probably wouldn't continue just because this isn't my kind of series. But if you like Project Superpowers, you might dig this one more because you know the characters already and you have like a connection with them. Me going in cold and not really knowing who these people were, it didn't really hook me enough to continue reading. So being an average kind of book, I'm going to give this one a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, not terrible, not great. It's just for me an average book. But if you saw something you like, definitely go pick that up at your local comic book store, and we will see y'all in the next one.